And we are live. Welcome, everyone, to the October live stream. We're doing it a day early since we were unavailable to do it tomorrow. But these things are archived for your viewing pleasure, so you'll be able to take a look at them whenever you want during the month of October. And of course, on November, we'll be back to our regular featured program on the first Thursday of the month. So we got some fascinating topics today. So we're going to start off with the MPC server. Then we're also going to talk about inclusivity and content management. And then we're going to wrap up with events. So a fun set of
Looking
topics.
forward to it. We're flexible, a day early. Well, we won't do a day late, but a day early doesn't matter
It's
much.
true. It's true. Well, it's funny. I actually spoke with a customer last week, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we listen to the live stream every month." And
Nice.
yeah, I think it's a great way just to keep everybody informed as to what's going on, because there's a lot that's happening on the product side, on the events, etc. And it's
Yeah.
just nice for people to quickly tune in for a couple minutes. So that being said, we've got an exciting technology that we're going to talk about, and this is the MPC server. And I know everybody has been talking about AI for the last 4 years nonstop. And this is another angle of AI. And the idea behind the MPC servers is that they're systems that allow you to do complex tasks. And I'll show you a wizard, an MPC wizard, that takes care of the problem. And to set up this problem, because this is sort of a universal content management problem, somebody comes to your desk with a whole bunch of materials, Word documents, text files, photos, and they're like, "Hey, get this into the content management system for me." And you're like, "Oh, okay, well, we got to structure this. Wait a second, this looks like something we've done before." And like, God forbid, you're a new person working on the team, and you've got to understand like how the content models work, how everything gets structured within a content management system. The MPC server can take you through like a guided tour of like, hey, I think you want to do this, so we want to do that. And Deepo, I think
Fascinating.
you've seen it in action, right? It's pretty
Yeah.
impressive.
Yeah, I want to see it again. I mean, it's
Okay.
like, every time I see it, it's like magic.
And
It's like getting AI to actually do real work for you, because there's so many implementations that fail. Why? Because you're trying to automate things that shouldn't. There's build workflows and automate the parts that need to be automated, and the rest of it is still left to the human in the loop.
Yeah, it's so true. And what I was also thinking about, the fact that user interfaces are great, and they've come a long way, but there still are so many micro tasks that you need to do in that user interface. And I was just thinking about my car this morning, and the fact is I could just talk to it to ask it what to do. So if I need to defog the windshield, I press a button and say defog the windshield. Or if I want to fold in the mirrors, fold in the mirrors. I don't
Nice.
have to go searching for the right buttons to do all those things.
Yeah.
There's just a nice different type of user interface that's more flexible, that can take care of those complex tasks. Well,
There's a
for me,
whole
they're
story
complex.
growing about that, about the death of what we're so used to in the menus and
Right.
buttons and icons and things like that. And by the time we get agentic working properly, then everything is voice driven.
Yeah.
We going into the Star Trek era.
we are. So let's put our phasers onto stun, and we'll go through, and let me share the demonstration over here. So share this tab. Okay. So as I'm going through, I'm going to sort of walk through the demonstration as it's going. So really what we have here is we've got a request. Hey, can you help me create some news articles using the data from my test directory? Ask me about each step that you'll take. And this is something that you'll see as part of this is it's an interaction that happens where you'll ask the MPC server to do certain things. And then it's going to say, well, are you sure you want to do it this way? Do you want me to do it this way for the start? So from here, it's actually taking a look at the content from your desktop. It's seen that, okay, there's some articles that are there. It's now proposing you to take those articles and put them into the article content type, so or schema, if you will. And it's able to identify interesting things about it. It's able to identify, okay, it looks like we've got a headline in the schema that matches up with the standalone headline that you've got in a text file. It's also got room for the images, so we're going to make that association to the images that you just have on your desk file, and you'll be able to see. And maybe I should stop here just for a second. So I'm going to put this video inside the roadmap that we're going to put in on the community. And that way you'll be able to go through it a little more in depth. But I just want to make sure that everybody can see that what we're doing here is we're inspecting files and images and stuff that we just have on our desktop, and we're using an MPC server to sort of break it up and make that bridge into Tridion. And this is what's going to be coming up in the Tridion 10.5 release, which is going to be the 2026 release for Tridion sites. So it's very interesting. Let me continue. So from here, it's doing the mapping for one of them, and now once it's got the pattern for doing one of the types of mapping, it's going to then apply that in bulk to the other articles that you've got on your desktop. So once again, this is now taking a look and sort of seeing, okay, we've created this news article successfully, and I didn't even have to log into Tridion. Like the system took those raw materials and created it for you. And now it's doing that for for all the other files that you have in your system. So in a way that you've created a process template in order to update Tridion with those materials that you've got on your desktop. So from here, it's going to continue through, and it's going to not only create those additional articles, but then you can also then quickly have them published out, and that's going to be sort of the next stage. So here's the air pollution article, which has been created as a component within Tridion. You can verify them, and then you can go through and do a classification of the articles. And this is a little bit different than the semantic AI module that we have. So the semantic AI module works with the formal knowledge graph. This, on the other hand, is simply taking your content and matching it up to a taxonomy that you've already created within Tridion. So in some ways, it's like a lightweight smart tagging classification system that you could use if you're not going down the formal route of using Pool Party. So now we're putting all of these items into a bundle. So you could do those types of workflow activities as well. Put things through a bundle, send them off into a workflow, and of course, if you've got bundles, you can also do publishing of the bundle. So you can group multiple items into a single unit and send them through to workflow. So let me just pause or actually stop the video here, and I'm going to let's just stop sharing. So that was the MPC server going, and I know I sped up the video, so I'm going to put it in the roadmap so people can take a look at it going slowly.
You can go and take a look at the video. It's be too long to show the whole thing here.
Yeah,
and we just continue discussing it anyway.
Yeah,
but yeah, let us know what you think in the comments, and obviously you can set this up in the way that you want for your own organization. So things like permissions for it to access certain drives, to access your desktop, and all of that is all set up beforehand.
Yeah, and that's a really important note, that the way that these MPC servers will work within the security framework that we've defined within Tridion sites. So that if you are using an MPC server to upload content, that content is going to appear as if it's been created by you. So that's an important consideration for our larger corporations. But the whole idea is that this is just another way to get content into Tridion sites, and it uses an MPC server that interrogates our REST API and makes those connections between it. And I think that's one of the fascinating things about AI is in the old days, you used to have a developer who would do like this strict mapping. Now you can have AI just sort of figure out like what you want to do, and that mapping process it doesn't have to be created by a developer.
That's it. Bringing like, a lot more into the hands of like, regular users. You don't have to bother your IT team or wait for like, weeks for them to have like, a space just to add like, a line to code,
Right. Yeah.
It's like,
Well, and it's funny because on when people are working with content management systems, I mean the teams change, right? And you get new hires who come in and who've got to figure things out, and this can also help them understand, what do you have to do, and by guiding them through your specific implementation, it will help them understand it. And that's one of the challenges is we've got product documentation, but a lot of knowledge really lies within how you've done your content models, what's your classification system, how you're using metadata, etc. So this
yeah.
could really help out with that.
And like, standardizing things, so yeah, like you said, someone's just come in as a consultant, they're in for like 3 months, you want to spend 3 months training them before they can like, eventually get to work. This gets them up and running straight away, pretty
Yeah,
much.
absolutely. So on this note, and I think that I guess we can segue now onto the topic of inclusivity and content management, and that's a topic that you've been working on.
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to be at. Let me start with events because, like, it just really segues into this because, like, I'm going to be at LavaCon next week, and one of my other talks that I'm going to be giving is on no, it's called "No One Left Behind." It's on Tuesday at 4:45. So if any of you is at LavaCon, make sure you drop in, and you can also register for the virtual event. But it's basically making the business case for inclusivity and inclusive content. So there's accessibility, and there's like all sorts of guidelines and rules and regulations for
Mhm.
accessibility. But then what about inclusivity? Accessibility is making sure like people can access it, but inclusivity is bringing everyone in there. So if you think about it, like the 16% of the world's population has like some sort of impairment,
Mhm.
affecting visual, hearing, motor, cognitive abilities. Companies, and here I'm talking about accessibility, so and like inclusivity comes on top of that. But
Mhm.
companies need to ensure that all their content, digital and print, is easy to use, navigate, and all and complies with regulatory guidelines. It's like the ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act
Mhm.
in the US. You've
Yep.
got one for Canada, Accessibility Canada Act, that's the one. In the EU we've got the European Accessibility Act, and like each of these come with like constraints, but also sometimes legal obligations. You
Right.
can get taken to court. So like if you're not being compliant, and if you're not including people in or including everyone
Yep.
in the content that you're producing, then one, you're excluding like a great part of the audience. I think it's like 400 million or billion in like
Right.
revenue, that's lost revenue of people with disabilities and things like that. There was a case I was just reading about when I was thinking about this, like a famous pizza joint got sued because a customer could not use an on-screen reader to read the menus and
Yeah.
order online.
Yeah.
And he won the case, even after appeal. 27 grand is about the average win in the US at the moment. So
Yeah.
this like, by alienating some of that audience, yeah, that's like 400 billion in disposable income. And that's just in the States.
Yeah.
So think about it worldwide. And so Tridion's set of products are tuned to help you get past some of these. Some of these, like inclusivity, is things that you have to think about, that you have to put into processes. But then there's like accessibility, and like the Tridion suites will help in different ways. So for example, if we think about authoring, if you, by working in structured content, that's the first step.
Yeah.
One, you're applying metadata automatically. You're saying, first of all, it's a topic that is a task. That's the first thing. So as a reader, a screen reader or something, it's just basically the semantics that's helping you understand what that topic is. Headers, list. This is a table. What's the table about? pictures, that's one of the things. Alt text for images. How do you ensure that all your authors are really putting in, alt text for all your images? Because one of those images going out could cause that lawsuit in the end. So Tridion can help by applying templates, by applying design templates, so that as you're building your content, it's automatically being semantically tagged, being put into the right areas, having every image gets an alt edit. We've actually got even partners that work with us. There's
Yeah.
Site Improve and AAA now, just two
Right.
of our technologies partners that would help you catch these issues even before you publish. And that's the main thing. A lot of these, Google Lighthouse, they allow you to check your content after it's been published. It's already out there. So you've already exposed yourself to, these issues.
Well, and then kind of technical. I mean, doing the Google Lighthouse report, okay, you can sort of see where those issues are, and then figuring out how to fix them can be a little more complex. So that's why sometimes I think if we're talking about improving and building accessibility into the content lifecycle, you're better off with one of the partner products that are out there.
That's it, put it in there, work it into your workflow, make sure those accessibility checks go through during content creation,
Hmm.
and then even during the review process. And
Right.
some of those can be automated. And with AI now, obviously, you can get your agents, set up an MPC server to check, make sure. And if it's not done, then go and pick up the right
Yeah.
term or whatever to tag it with the right, get all of those, automated in there. Semantic AI and taxonomies, we've got the semantic AI module for it in there. So if you've put some of these terms in, to manage your metadata, put all these terms inside of your taxonomy, and you're able to automatically tag your
Hmm.
content.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because I think that there's also, and when I think about making the content as accessible as possible, also avoiding content overload, I think is important, and that's where I do see semantic AI, knowledge graphs, etc., being a tool to help you just see the content that's really relevant for you. Um, yeah, so I'd say it's a huge topic. It's funny. I always
It's
describe
massive.
accessibility as two carrots and a stick. So,
Yeah.
one carrot is, hey, some of your constituents, the people who interact with your products, they've got some needs. So serve them better, and they'll be more likely to convert. So there's a financial incentive there.
That's it.
Secondly, I think the second carrot is the brand. And I think being a good corporate digital citizen is something that's important for a lot of companies. And then of course the stick is, the lawsuits that can come up.
Yeah.
So I think it's great. And I think it's great that we're thinking about, how to make this content more available and better for everyone.
I mean, in researching this, I thought this would make a great topic for a blog post. It's like the business value, as you mentioned, it's like reach. Your accessibility opens up new markets. There's over 1 billion people with disabilities, and there's multilingual audiences. Trust and loyalty is your customers reward inclusive brands.
Mhm.
The 78% of the LGBTQ plus consumers would switch to an inclusive brand and
Right.
leave yours out if if they feel that you're not being inclusive. Risk mitigation, fines, PR damage, and efficiency, guardrails will help speed your content creation. The benefits are both internal for
Mhm.
you to create that content, also external.
Yeah. Very good. Well, we could go on for
We could go on, and I just
a little
quickly
bit.
mention I was at the Nordic Tech Com,
Yeah.
and
Oh, yeah.
that was an excellent event. I did encourage anyone. The next TCOM event is in November, so after LavaCon, which is next week.
Yeah.
TC World will be going on in Stuttgart. So look out for any of our content on there. We've got many presentations going on. I'll be presenting there as well, but there's also going to be the CCA, the Component Content Alliance, with the Kinetic Council, so organizations, professional organizations, helping to think about what structured content is, and help you learn and find out what the best way to implement it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, and for those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting Depot, he will be in Atlanta at LavaCon. So, hope you'll be able to make it there. I think that just about wraps up the live stream. Unless there's anything else, Depot.
No, that's it. We've run over time. I got
Oh,
loads more to
I
say.
know.
Don't encourage me. I've got loads more to say, but we've run over time. Like, you know, we'll continue next
All
month.
right. So we'll see everyone next month. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.